Hello every pony and welcome to Brony FanFics. Today, Crisis Equestria, chapter 13. Last time the main six and their counterparts met up, and the counterparts are acting as friendlies, so, well, for some reason. And for some reason, the main six were supposed to remember something, I don't know what. Hopefully that'll be explained. I'm told this chapter's really long, so I might do it in two parts, or I might just do it in one part, so grab a snack and a drink, because this is going to take a while. Something I like, the author gave me a shout out at the top, that's good. I'm not going to read it, because A, he told me not to read the author notes, and B, you're already watching, so I don't need a shout out. Well, I don't need to I don't need to say my own shout out on my own videos. Anyway, Crisis Equestria, Chapter 13, Instigation. Looking east, one could see the large stretch of mountains that made up the Goldridge Pass. Even from here it was possible to see where the range got its name, a long jagged ridge of solid gold for miles and miles. It was only mere hours away, but to Twilight and her friends, it may as well be on the other side of the world, non-stop. That's what the past 24 hours had been. The last extended break they'd taken had been back on the volcano, and that seemed so long ago now. They were tired, hungry, and the three unicorns felt completely drained of magic. If nothing else, they were nearly broken with little left to spare, and Fluttershy's condition wasn't helping matters in the slightest. It actually made them a bit envious of their new escorts. But at TikTok's insistence, the group had decided to take a much-needed rest. She assessed Fluttershy's condition with a great deal of care under Rarity's scrutinous gaze, using the same magics that Twilight had used to repair her leg days ago. The venom was spreading fast, but TikTok was relieved that she was remaining stable. They had anywhere between 7 and 8 hours, based on the shortness of breath and the bluish-green colouring around her lips. It was easy enough to convince every pony, that if they kept moving without a moment's rest, none of them would have the energy to make it, and what good would that do? They were a few hours away. They'd take a short break, long enough to rest their legs and catch their breath, no longer than an hour. And besides, their new escorts had proven quite fascinating, and every pony was rather curious about getting to know every pony else. I still don't know if I should be leaving her, Twilight said, pointedly, referring to the yellow Pegasus over their makeshift campfire. I really should be back there trying to help TikTok make sure everything is okay. Starlight waved her hoof dismissively. Sparkle, this is your time to rest too. You've earned it more than any pony else. I should say, let her handle things. She seems to have at least a little knowledge of gargantuan venom. Even if she didn't want a second opinion, I was more than happy to offer it. And I'd say her assessment is rather accurate. And I thank you again, but I understand your concern, Sparkle. Your friend is running out of time. You're putting her well-being in the hooves of a pony that you have begun to doubt. And even though they certainly tried to keep matters private, I did hear quite a bit of that argument you had back there with your friends. Rarity and Rainbow Dash, was it? Your friend's faith in you is waning. Your friend's faith in you is waning, I think. There was a typo there that said in instead of is. Unless it's supposed to say that, in which case I'm an idiot. Perhaps you are even beginning to doubt yourself. Twilight shifted uncomfortably. Well, I do sort of feel that some of the things that have been happening these past few days are my fault, but how could you have guessed that? You haven't known me. I'm a very astute judge of character, my dear. I was once like you, you know. I find you and your companions to be most interesting. Quite a captivating bunch. You're also diverse. I believe I can relate to it in my own associates, and I rather handily and I rather handily, though there are obviously a few minor differences. And from my understanding, Sparkle, Starlight smiled matter-of-factly, you are the leader of this group, are you not? Well, I wouldn't exactly say that, Twilight shuffled. I just have a good organisational skills. I don't know if I'd call myself a leader per se, more like a manager. Come now, don't be so modest. I saw how you took charge back there. I see the way your friends look to you for guidance. I don't think any of them would hesitate to nominate you if pressed. I also detected your barrier spell from no small distance. You wield some powerful magic, my dear. Powerful indeed. If not for you, your friends would not be here at this camp right now, enjoying a simple rest. If I may borrow a bit of my dear Havoc Wing's words, they'd be paced by now. Your friends need you. Don't be shy to admit it. Well, I suppose when you put it that way, Twilight blushed. I don't like to brag, though. I had a bad experience admitting that to myself in the past, and I doubt my friends' opinions on the matters were changed just due to the recent events. I know what it must feel like, Sparkle, knowing that without your intervention, your friends wouldn't get anything accomplished. It must be... My friends and I don't have that kind of relationship, Twilight said suddenly. I rely on my friends just as much as they rely on me. I value their opinions, their contributions, and their friendship. Without them, I wouldn't be the pony I am today. Starlight smirked. Perhaps if you didn't pay heed to others quite so much, you wouldn't have found yourself in this little situation you're in. Twilight stopped a moment, then slowly responded. What do you mean by that? This friend of yours, TikTok? You claim she's acting as your guide, yes? And you claim that it was her idea to head along that foolishly dangerous route through the volcanic territory. My opinion is that was pretty ridiculous. My opinion is that was a pretty ridiculous plan. Even my group wouldn't have gone that way, though we certainly could have if we'd been heading in that direction. You have to be in some sort of a desperate hurry to think that route is worthwhile. Well, yeah, we are on an awfully strict time limit, Twilight nodded, but we're not in that big of a hurry that we need to endanger ourselves so much. I mean, what was she... Her? Oh, no, my dear. I was referring to you. Me? Twilight blurted. But... Starlight chuckled. See, here's where you appear to have reached a dilemma. Sparkle. You knew that route was unnecessarily dangerous, a foolish endeavour if there ever was one. Your friends knew it too, and joined you in voicing your disagreement, but you listened to TikTok anyway, despite your own misgivings, which you based entirely on logic and fact, and the arguments from your friends who I remind you are all perturbed that you went along with it. She's our guide. She knows her way around out there. Starlight's smirk grew wide. Does she now? Well, that's what she says, at any rate, but that's besides the point. No, the problem is that you fail to utilise your two greatest gifts to ensure the safety of yourself and your friends, and instead relied entirely on the good faith of some pony your friends just met. Some pony who you've been keen to point out has a track record for recklessness and arrogance, who some of your friends distrust, and others don't particularly care for. Greatest gifts, and those would be... Why, your intellect, for one. I can discern quite a lot just from how you speak. You're well educated, or at least extremely well read, if not a combination of the two. Starlight nodded knowingly. Twilight's sheepish look hinted to Starlight's correct assessment, which widened her grin as she continued. You're smart enough to know wandering through an active volcano is a real fool's errand. Why you didn't assert yourself and your superior intellect is beyond me. She sounded so confident, though. She said she'd done it before, Twilight admitted. Dozens of times, even. She wouldn't listen to arguments we had. Anyway, she said she knew what she was doing. That brings me to my second point. While right now you are certainly drained of most of your magic, I can sense the power it stems from. You're no slouch. Certainly more powerful than any other unicorn here. Well, maybe not any unicorn. I can think of one with that kind of power, Starlight added with a wink. Twilight nodded lightly. She could feel the power that Starlight radiated, and while she wouldn't admit to any pony else, she felt a little jealous. Starlight had a great deal of magic, easily as much as she did, and was not afraid to flaunt it either. Twilight knew that this unicorn certainly had the magic to back up her boasting. I appreciate the compliment, but I don't follow. Twilight blinked. Her thoughts dashed as she remembered the conversation. Starlight grinned smugly and gestured towards the camp. You've met my associates. You've seen the strength they possess. Do any of your companions share that level of strength? Twilight remained silent. I thought not. Yet, despite each having enough lethality in them that they need not fear anything, there is something they all respect. Do you know what that is? Me. Twilight made to speak, but decided against it. Starlight continued. Don't get me wrong, Sparkle. I am more than willing to listen to their ever-so-eager opinions, mostly to humour them, if nothing else. I value the input of my lieutenants, true enough, but even they know that when it comes down to it, what I say goes, and there is no room for arguing. It helps to keep them in line, and believe me, when I say a group of such diversity and complexity needs a little order, surely you agree. I agree that being orderly and disciplined is nice and everything, but I don't know if I agree with your methods. Twilight hesitated. You can't treat your friends like tools, and you can't rely on fear. Heavens no. I merely speak on my self-confidence. I know the power I wield is far beyond their own, and so I am not afraid to face any challenge presented to me by this harsh world. Nor am I worried any of them would challenge my authority. Twilight interrupted. Your companions are awfully, violent. I'm honestly amazed that you can keep them all in line. Are all the ponies around here quite so? Starlight rolled her eyes. Understand, Sparkle, that the world outside the city walls is a hazardous one. If you're not willing to utilize all of your power to defend yourself, you are liable to get yourself killed out here. The Gargantuan may be the deadliest predator in the wastelands, but their territory is self-contained and easy to avoid. There are dangers that you cannot simply find a detour around. However, I warn you now that they are much deadlier than those ridiculous creatures. Twilight nodded in a grim understanding. Greater dangers than the ones they'd already faced? Perhaps Starlight had a point. Perhaps it was folly to hesitate in utilizing her power with confidence, to act as if TikTok's expertise was the end-all be-all solution to their problems. The few times she'd relied entirely on TikTok so far, or rather any of their new friends, they'd gotten themselves in a very tight jams. Nearly arrested at the gate, blown out of a volcano, assaulted by killer bugs, and each time she'd had to bail them out using her own vast amount of magic. Maybe Starlight was right. Starlight was unperturbed by Twilight's apparent inner thoughts, and continued her tirade. As I was saying, my associates respect my confidence. They follow me because I am an inspiration. From the way you speak, Sparkle, you don't like to show off your intellect and magical prowess. That is where you have a problem. Your friends are hesitant to follow you unquestioningly, because you don't have the confidence to lead them as you know. Deep down, you are able to. You certainly don't have to agree with my leadership qualities. I'm not forcing you. I'm merely expressing concern that if you don't assert your authority more strongly, you and your friends may be putting yourselves at risk. Do you want another Fluttershy incident? I should say not. Twilight frowned and gave a nod. I guess I can understand that. Thank you for your concern, Starlight. I do appreciate the rescue earlier, so I don't want to come off as unappreciative. I just don't know if I can follow your example. I don't think I have it in me, whether I agree with you or not. Please, don't mention it. After all, what's one little favour between two like-minded individuals? Starlight smirked. I only ask that you consider my suggestions. After my companions and I reach your destination, we will be unable to escort you to the rest of the way to wherever it is you're going. Now then, since I'm done talking your ear off, where exactly are you headed after Goldridge? Applejack busied herself with Twilight's... No, Applejack busied herself with TikTok's map, still utterly confused how the thing worked. Magical fruits? Yes, that was a field she felt well versed in. Magical maps? Not so much. Twilight insisted she try and figure out a bit more about their upcoming route, but without Twilight or TikTok to explain the map's intricate nature, she may as well be reading another language, Applejack thought. She figured this was just Twilight's way of trying to help Applejack learn more about the world around them, if she could. Applejack figured. Perhaps Twilight would have some pony she truly trusted and had faith in to help direct them. Twilight hadn't said as much, but Applejack knew her well enough to guess. Applejack brought forth her most serious efforts. She feared that if she didn't, they'd run the risk of TikTok walking them into another perfectly safe passage that would lead them into danger. Granted, she still have to rely on TikTok for certain things, but at the very least it would be 100% reliance. She was able to figure out the basics, like the tiny green dot with TikTok's name above it was, or what all other dot was, or what all the other coloured dots with similar names above them were. TikTok had even updated the map to include their new companions at Twilight's behest. The dotted green line stretching northeast into the mountain was an easy guess too, and as was the red one leading southwest and starting from a southern point in the nesting grounds of those creatures. What the other assorted symbols meant, or how TikTok was able to zoom the mapping on specific locations as she'd done when planning the route through Redblade, or how the map seemed to update itself automatically to fit whatever shape she held it in. Those were other matters entirely beyond Applejack's grasp. But apart from those, it was a pretty regular old map, and it was easy enough to see that the fastest path to the checkpoint was directly east through more of the nesting grounds of those creatures. But was that the best decision? Applejack wasn't sure. Maybe their new companions would be willing to provide escort through that way. It certainly would please Twilight and the others, Rarity especially, to know that some pony was willing to help them to get Fluttershy help as quickly as possible. Ah, Miss Applejack, are you having trouble with the map? Applejack turned to face the voice. Ah, howdy there, Miss. Applejack looked intently at the map, and saw the dark blue dot that matched the pony's coat. Curacao? The Blue Earth pony corrected. The second C is pronounced like S, oui? Oh, right. Sorry, I wasn't paying much attention at the little introduction thing y'all were doing earlier. I ain't much used to fancy names like that. Either my tongue's got a hard time saying them. Sorry. Curacao chuckled. It is quite all right, Applejack. You have only known me a short time, no? It takes time to learn to pronounce such beautiful names as mine. Applejack rolled her eyes. Just what she needed, another rarity. Right. Well, to answer your question, yeah, I'm having some trouble trying to figure out how this here map. I ain't much on magical things like this, you see, and may I? Curacao offered. I have some experience with these sort of things. Like a fish to water, no? Oh, sure, I guess it won't hurt none to give you a fair shot. Applejack raised an eyebrow, passing the map over. I don't rightly see what y'all can do with it. Not having any magic herself, but... Applejack stopped as she watched the Earth Pony crumple the map into a ball and blurted, "What in the hell y'all doing?" Ah, have no worries, dear Applejack, Curacao insisted as she kept the ball away from Applejack's grabbing hooves. Watch and learn from un professional, She finished moulding the map into a ball and waited for a brief moment. Applejack watched in surprise as the ball suddenly glowed a dim white and formed itself into a perfect sphere. Upon it now was the image of what Applejack could only guess was the map of the entire globe of this Equestria. Having never seen it before, it was rather fascinating. As TikTok had explained before, the world is divided neatly into thirds. The middle third, a massive ocean. The other two, the northern and southern continents. How'd y'all do that? Applejack blinked. Oh, it was no trouble at all, Curacao shrugged as she unfurled the map again into a neat and compact square, where it reformed to appear a normal atlas. These magical maps, they are très facile, no? Well, pour moi at least. I understand if some ponies are less than adept with this sort of thing. So y'all an expert in maps, huh? Are y'all the navigator for your group too? Applejack asked. The cutie mark don't really look like it makes you no expert in that kind of thing, if you don't mind my prying. Curacao shook her head. Perhaps I have little talent with these navigation skills, but it is more of a hobby, no? But Starlight Shadow, she is the leader. If she wants to go another way, that is her decision, and it is our job to follow her orders. I find it a bon idea to help ensure things go smoothly, though, no? She listens to my opinion, and I do the best I can to make sure we take the best route. I'm sure that you the same for your Capitan, oui? My Cappy, what? Your leader, the one that makes all the important decisions. Ah, unless you are un petit démocratie? Oh, you mean Twilight? Well, I suppose I do help a lot with that kind of thing lately. Probably more unusual, what with the problem of the volcano and all. Twilight respects my know-how on mountain climbing, and what with us going into another range of mountains, well, I guess I can see why she'd rely on me. They trust you then, Curacao smirked. Well, yeah, Applejack smiled. I'm the most trustworthy and hardest working pony there is. Of course my friends trust me. And they know they can depend on me for just about anything there is that needs doing. I've known them all for a long time, and they all know me better than they know the back of their hooves. If y'all don't mind me being mad prideful, ain't nothing to it. And you have so many friends too, Merveilleux. I'm not good with French words. I wish I knew so many ponies so well. But this TikTok, she is a new friend, non? That is what your Twilight explained? Well, yeah, only met her recently. Applejack nodded. Her and Mr. Lockwood and Flathoof. Curacao smirked. Just Flathoof then? No, Mister. Ah, you two are on a first-name basis then, we? You must think highly of him. Applejack hesitated. Well, yeah, I suppose y'all could put it that way. I just feel more comfortable around him is all. He kinda reminds me of myself, to be frank with you. Got a nice family, hard-working, honest. Can't go wrong with a combination like that. No siree. Ah, like famille and très important to many ponies, oui? I can see why you like him so much. Applejack turned pink. Whoa there, missy. Don't go making assumptions like that. Curacao frowned. Oh, je m'excuse. I did not mean to intrude, but you say you two are not together, oui? Oh la la, perhaps he would be interested in moi. Il est très bon. Très beau. Wouldn't you agree? Il est plutôt robuste, oui? Applejack narrowed her eyes a little. No, I don't think he'd go for it. Mr. Lockwood might be more your type. He likes teeny little things like you. Though y'all might be out of luck if Rhodey gets her way. Curacao smirked. Oh, do not be such a stick in the mud, Applejack. I will not be stealing your boyfriend. Applejack flustered. Now I just told you. Relax. C'est un plaisanterie. This is bad for me. I took French for a couple of years, and I can't remember any of it. A joke. Blague à part? You say you have a nice family, no? Tell me more about them. I am curious. I thought your name was Curacao. Don't go don't go changing on me now. I told you all I can't, Applejack started. Curacao raised a hoof. No. I am curious. Sometimes I forget that not all ponies pick up so easily on my native tongue. Applejack rolled her eyes. Right. Well, as much as I'd like to go into details and all, we're kind of pressed for time, don't you think? Curacao gave a big pout that reminded Applejack a little too much of Rarity. Oh no. Just a little bit. S'il vous plaît? Pour moi? Très bon, I know. I'll tell you about my famille. So we are even, what? Oui? You really know their names, oui? You already know their names, oui? Applejack raised an eyebrow. What? I don't know anything about your family. I ain't never met y'all before. Ah, but you know them, see? Look at your map. You can see them there. See, you can see on there. Oh, there we go. Not that don't make no... Now that don't make no... Applejack started, then she realized. You mean your traveling companions? Well, shoot, I get you now. 20 others are just like my family too. Ah, but of course. However, we are more than that. You see, we are Sue's sisters. Adopted, of course. But sisters nonetheless. You're all adopted? Applejack blinked. You mean, none of y'all got any parents? Ah, none. Curacao shook her head. Our only parent is our papa, who took us all in, and as such, and has taken such good care of us since we were very young. Just little fillies, so we were all sisters, no? Our real parents, well, I don't know what happened to them. I was too young to remember. Applejack nodded glumly. No parents. She shook her head. Well, since you all shared a bit about yourself, I don't feel right not telling you something in return. I guess I could tell you about the Apple Clan a little bit. C'est magnifique, Curacao grinned. I am sure this will be très intéressant. Are you absolutely certain she is going to last long enough to make it? Rarity asked with concern. She stood worriedly over Fluttershy's unconscious, limp form. The Pegasus's breathing was steadied slightly, a fact TikTok attributed to keeping her warm. Lockwood's jacket served as a most excellent blanket, and she was now left rather embarrassingly wearing just a simple white undershirt. Oh, he was. The campsite's large fire blazed only a few feet away, stoked occasionally by Havocwing at the behest. And this helped matters greatly. Rarity reminded herself to thank the Pegasus later. I swear to you, if this break you insisted on so much as possibly risks us not making it in time to save her, TikTok waved a dismissive hoof and set back to work examining Fluttershy's condition. The thing with gargantuan venom is that it saps body heat at an incredibly alarming rate. Think hypothermia on steroids, and with a personal trainer, she exclaimed, her horn aglow as she studied Fluttershy's back, where the stinger had originally struck. This should buy us an extra 30 minutes or so. More than enough to excuse taking this little breather. We'll be fine so long as we don't run into any more delays. I don't see how any more delays would be possible, Lockwood smiled. These new friends of ours are most appropriate bodyguards, wouldn't you say? Well, they certainly did help us out of a jam, Flathoof nodded, and they seem so interested in getting to know you girls. I get the feeling they do a lot of travelling and spend most of their time alone together. Probably don't meet too many other ponies. Friends, right, TikTok hesitated. I'm glad to see they're so interested in us. I don't know about you two, but they've hardly said a word to me. In fact, I think that I've caught them looking at me a few times. Not good looks either, mind you. And to be honest, I'm a little bothered by it. Sounds like some ponies jealous, Lockwood smirked. I'll admit I feel left out not getting to know the 6 more fine young mares, but I suppose I can't win 'em all. Shame too. I rather like the jumpsuits they're wearing. Very form-fitting. Tacky is more like it, Rarity snorted. Why even bother wearing anything if it's that? If that's what they're going to wear. In such gaudy colour, silver. They're travelling across a desert, not holding a rock concert. They're out in the wastelands. There's no law out here that they have to wear anything anyway, TikTok pointed out. To be frank, I'm surprised you all are still following it or even care. And before you say anything, no, I'm not being hypocritical. My outfit has a practical purpose beyond just covering up. Hey, I'm not complaining, Lockwood nodded with a wide grin. He turned to and addressed Rarity. Seems odd to me that you other girls are still following it, even when you're not from around here. Loosen up a little. If you're asking what I think you are, Rarity narrowed her eyes. Lockwood waved his hoof defensively. Haha, joking. Just trying to lighten the mood. Flathoof rolled his eyes. As usual, always good to see you're not letting things get you down, old friend. Though maybe you shouldn't keep thinking with your... Rarity gave Flathoof a look, as if daring him to finish a sentence with the word he was thinking of. But midway through the look, a greasy streak of yellow and black and silver sidled up to Rarity from the darkness. Insipid made her presence known rather suddenly. Oh, hey, she fumbled for a moment, apparently forgetting a moment who she'd come for. Hey, Rarity, can I, borrow you for, just a teeny minute? Rarity raised an eyebrow. She hadn't really spoken much with the other unicorn outside of introductions, so this was a rather sudden surprise. Yes, darling? What is it? Well, I wanted to, talk to you, alone. It's kind of embarrassing, see, I really don't want any pony butting in. To be honest, darling, at the moment, I'm rather preoccupied. I really must make sure Fluttershy is taken care of, Rarity replied. Insipid looked at the limp yellow Pegasus. Oh, yeah, she got, stung by one of those things and junk. That's totally sad, but, isn't your friend, watchy, clocky, timey? TikTok, said the self-affirmed flatly. TikTok, it's you're the one taking the most, care of her. That would be the case, TikTok said dismissively. I've got things handled here, Rarity. Fluttershy's going to be fine. If I need any assistance, Lockwood's here too. You can spend as much time as you'd like with her. That's right, Lockwood nodded. I'd be more than able to take care of things in your stead, if Miss Insipid wishes to speak with you about something. Rarity frowned and stroked Fluttershy's mane. I don't know. I'd really rather not leave her when she needs me the most. Oh, come on, Insipid pouted. Your friends are, gonna take care of her and stuff. It'll be totally fine. I mean, for serious, maybe you could spare, a few minutes to help me solve a little problem. Prettiest pleases? Well, and Rarity sighed, finding no polite escape. I suppose. Oh, thank you so totally much. Rarity turned to TikTok. You'll come and get me if anything changes with Fluttershy's condition, won't you? Of course, TikTok nodded. Rarity followed Insipid a small ways away from the campfire, not sure what to expect. Insipid suddenly stopped and turned to face her, a scrutinous look on her face. Darling, Rarity asked, what is this all? Can you make me look, pretty? Insipid blurted. I beg your pardon? Rarity blinked. Whatever do you mean? Pretty, I want to be pretty, Insipid pouted. I mean, for real, just look at me. I have no clue how to fix all this. She spun her hoof round. Where are you pointing at, darling? Stop wiggling so much. You're just gesturing everywhere, Rarity said flatly. I know, everywhere, Insipid wailed. I don't know what to do. This is what you came to me about? Seriously? Rarity frowned. You dragged me away from Fluttershy to give you a makeover. Insipid said rather matter-of-factly. as if there wasn't any problem with it at all. Like, Char, it's super serious, right? Rarity rolled her eyes. I really must get back to her. Surely some pony else would. Please, Insipid pouted again. I promise it won't be like totally super long and junk. I just need advice, really. Maybe a little work done or whatever. Not like, a full treatment or anything. Well, I suppose I could do something with you. Rarity hesitated. You can? Insipid said with wide eyes. For sure, Rarity nodded. She suddenly realized that she'd said what she'd said and put a hoof to her face. Oh, wonderful. Now you've got me doing it. She shook it off with a cough and began to scrutinize her client with her expert eyes. Your coat needs a good wash. Nothing I can do about that, but your mane and tail I can help with. Not as much as I'm sure you'd like, since I lack a brush or any product, but well enough for now. You're at least You've at the very least got beautiful eyes, darling. No need to touch those at all. It's actually sort of strange. Kind of like looking in a mirror. Oh, thank you, Insipid squealed in delight. This is going to be like so totally major fresh. Rarity blinked rapidly. The pony's manner of speaking was truly astonishing. She still was not quite able to tell when Insipid was asking or telling her anything. Right, well, I do have one question though before I get started on this. Why? Yes, okay, your look is certainly unique, but it is nothing I would consider too far below average standards. If anything, you look like a cheap knockoff of my style. Only you've got two more cowlicks to make. Only you've got too many cowlicks to make this kind of kill practical. And whoever did your dye job, I do apologise if you did it yourself, hasn't got a clue what they are doing and should have their license revoked immediately. Please tell me you didn't try this yourself, darling, because really now, using paint is hardly a good idea. But I've gone off on a tangent again, forgive me. I believe I was asking you why you wanted an expert's advice out here, in the middle of nowhere. Normally I'd jump at the opportunity, but you're asking me to divide my attention away from something very important to me. Insipid squirmed when she half-answered Rarity's question after a moment of visible self-discussion. I can't, say... Oh. And why not? Duh, I don't want to. I mean, hello. Rarity rolled her eyes. Darling, really. Look, can you, help me or can't you? Rarity huffed. Well, perhaps then you can at least tell me why you want my help in particular. Granted, I certainly do look like I know my stuff, but surely one of your friends would... No. I totally don't, want them to know what I'm trying to do. They'd make fun of me forever. For sure. Forever. You see? So not fresh. And, you're, the second prettiest pony here, so... Rarity bogged. Second? Of all the uncouth... Her eyes narrowed. So, who's the first, in your opinion? Oh, come on, don't make me, say something all embarrassing, Insipid whined. If you won't tell me, I won't help you. It's as simple as that. My assistance doesn't normally come so cheap, Yet all I'm asking for right now is a simple response to a simple question. Insipid flustered. But... This is what I get for asking. Okay, whatever. But, you promise you won't tell any pony, super swear? Of course. Rarity nodded with an easy smile. Cross my heart and hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my eye. Insipid blinked a few times. Rarity shook her head. Sorry, old habit, I'm afraid. Let's just say it means I promise. Yes? Now go on, darling, you were saying? Insipid looked around to make sure no pony was eavesdropping. In a hushed whisper, she said quietly into Rarity's ear, Curacao is the prettiest. Rarity blinked, stunned. You can't be serious. Insipid remained firm. You are serious, I see. Rarity looked off to the other side of the camp, where the blue earth pony in question was busy chatting up a storm with Applejack. Much to her own curiosity, how those two could have possibly hit off was beyond her. No matter. How in Equestria was this silly unicorn could think How in Equestria this silly unicorn could think that Curacao is prettier than her, the always fashionable rarity, was preposterous. And yet, the longer she looked, the more she began to think that perhaps the scatterbrained one was onto something. While I disagree with your position, I certainly can see why you have it. She does have a certain fanciful quality to her. I'll give her that. Her mane is styled wonderfully. Such a simple style that it really fits her facial structure and body tone. And she keeps the shine up perfectly. I'm impressed, to be fair. Out in these conditions, I found it difficult to maintain my own look, but Curacao makes it look easy. Insipid continued for her as soon as Rarity ended her sentence, apparently forgetting immediately she'd ever been whispering. Oh, I know, her hair is all like silky and smooth, and there isn't a tangle or anything anywhere, and it's got like the orange smell, totally fresh. And her choice in accessories is simple and practical, but very well done and not at all out of place. The headband perfectly matches both her coat and her hair. A very good choice for travelling conditions, as she keeps herself in good shape as well, just the right amount of lean tone and sleek structure. Oh, tell me about it. She's got like no fat at all, and it is all poised and trim. She's got like the totally perfect body, you know. And she's fluent in Romantique. So few ponies speak it so well. Even fewer can even understand it. I'll admit I'm rather jealous. I'm still learning it myself, but I think I still have a few years ahead of me before I can hope to come close to her fluency. It's like she was born of speaking it. I know, it sounds so totally pretty when she says it, like the voice of hers. Mais oui beaucoup, Insipid bubbled. Rarity suppressed the urge to groan at the horribly mangled language. She was like made for speaking fancy. Her face suddenly contorted into a pout. It's not fair. I'm like totally never going to be as fancy as her. You said it'd take like years to go out and like learn that language. I totally don't have that kind of time. I want to learn it, and learn it now. Well, it does take a lot of time and effort, I assure you of that much. Nothing a little diligence wouldn't solve. Though I suppose that is out of the question for you at the moment. I could teach you a little bit, so long as we're travelling together for a while, if you'd like. Oh, yeah, that would so totally work. Since as long as the boss thinks I'm doing, like, a good job, she'll let me talk to you. Rarity raised an eyebrow. I beg your pardon? Insipid's eyes widened. In protecting you guys, I mean. Yeah, like, if she thinks I'm, you know, goofing off or something, she won't let me, like, do anything in my free time. She's totally super strict, you know. Rarity's eyes half-lidded. Well, wouldn't asking me for a makeover and fashion advice count as goofing off, darling? Oh, like, not really. That's already part of the plan. Or whatever. Insipid nodded. She suddenly shook her head. Because she like, wants me to make new friends. Yeah, the plan is, like, for me to make new friends, you know? Yeah, so, like, anyway. You were, like, going to help me and stuff? Rarity rolled her eyes a bit. This one was a bit scatterbrained, but the poor dear was obviously ecstatic to have an outsider to help her with her little problem, so she'd forgive a minor bit of nervousness. So you want to be as pretty as Curacao, do you? Well, as I said, that is not going to be an easy task. It takes a lot of work and dedication to be as pretty as she and I are, Rarity added. And not just to get that initial look either. It takes diligent discipline to maintain it, and you may not have that kind of luxury. I so totally do not care how much work it takes or whatever. I just like want to be pretty and fancy like her, you know? I'll do like anything, Insipid said quickly. Rarity's tone glowed as she began to analyse Insipid's mane at first. This might take a while, she thought. Just from looking at Insipid's mane and tail, she could see a few cowlicks. But combing through it, she could feel dozens more that she couldn't see with her naked eye. Taking a while was putting it mildly. This wasn't just a job, this was a project. It might be best to at least make conversation and lighten the mood, break the silence. So tell me, how long has your little troop been travelling together? Like, as long as I can remember. Insipid nodded. So, like, a super long time? What about you and your friends? You all seem like totally close and junk. Well, we all became friends as a group a few years ago, when Twilight first moved to where we all live. A few of us knew one another from before that, though. Rainbow Dash met Applejack when Rainbow first moved to town. Applejack heads to the agricultural committee, see? And there's a lot of input on the town's ideal weather conditions, and Rainbow Dash was appointed the head of the weather control. A natural fit. They became fast friends, since they share so much in common. Rainbow and Fluttershy knew each other from flight school, at least until Fluttershy dropped out and moved to a more ground-level city several months before Rainbow did. That's when I met Fluttershy. I saw an ad in the paper about a new animal caregiver in town, and thought I'd drop by to see if she could help me with my precious opalescence, my cat, she added, when she noticed the confusion on Insipid's face. Apart from her, I had a little interaction with the others before Twilight arrived. Pinkie Pie once or twice for costumes, but we rarely spoke much outside of the business-related matters. So you've, like, known Fluttershy the longest? Insipid prodded. Well, being close with her the longest. Yes, most definitely. Which of your friends did you meet first? Curacao? Insipid smiled. She was the first thing I saw after the, she was the first thing I ever saw that looked as beautiful as she does or whatever. So she, like, opened my eyes, as if Curie was the first thing I ever saw? Yeah, we all pretty much met right after that. So, like, I've known the others nearly as long. Rarity smirked at Insipid's fumbling. She knew that kind of nervousness anywhere. That's quite a way to put it. You certainly are trying to sound as romantic as I'm sure Curie is. Very poetic, darling. Insipid coughed. So, do you and Fluttershy, like, get along really well and stuff? Utopia sounds like it has some, like, pretty tight-knit communities. Rarity raised an eyebrow. Utopia? I never mentioned anything about... Insipid choked. I was making, like, an assumption, you know? Yeah, because Pandemonium doesn't have anything like those, agricultural things. I assume this, like, little, like, journey of yours is trying to go back home. Changed your mind or whatever. Decided to go back? Yes. Changed our minds. Rarity smiled meekly. For sure, so yeah, you and Fluttershy, I'm like on pins and needles? You two frenzies? Heavens, darling, that's putting it mildly. She and I are the best of friends. We do everything together, and she works so hard to live up to my expectations in fashion. Did you know she knows nearly as much as I do? Granted it was mostly sewing techniques, but it's a start. I was surprised she knew so much and sprung it on me so suddenly. Poor dear didn't want to hurt my feelings when critiquing a dress I made for her. Do you and Curacao share anything like that? She seems to me like your closest friends. Insipid sighed. I don't know. All I know is, like, Curie's the bestest pony in all Equestria, for sure. None of the others in my group even, like, compare. What about their gifts? That's something they all have that Curacao lacks. I'm actually curious about how she ended up with you all. And you, as well. I haven't seen any similar abilities from the two of you. Do you have gifts like those? Well, Curie and Starlight said I should, you know, keep mine on, like, low down. Oh, down low. Because it's like, the boss doesn't want me to, like, throw away a good opportunity. Then she always says, as usual, and, like, I don't see... Insipid interrupted herself, and suddenly began to fluster and speak even faster than she already had. Oh, Because my power is kind of like is throwing stuff away, like garbage. So lame. And dirty. Dirt and stuff and junk. Yeah, total snore. Like, I'm sure I so really don't like garbage and stuff, even. And so, you know, I'd rather not, like, talk about trash real grody. You totally wouldn't want to hear about that stuff, so forget it or whatever. Cha. Rarity just stared at her, awkwardly. Insipid continued unfazed. And the others? Like, none of those really have much of what I would want anyway, you know? Having with fire powers? Like, yawn, boring. I can't fly, so Grayscale's powers don't really, you know, interest me. And Red's, like, gag me with a spoon. Let's just say I'd rather not ever talk about hers. She added it with a shudder. Rarity continued to stare, utterly perplexed at the black unicorn's stream of consciousness as it blurted out. And after a moment, Rarity realized it had gone quiet again. Insipid stopped talking and was looking at Rarity expectantly. Not for the first time, she mentally flailed, and tried to decipher the last thing that had been said. Strange, to be honest, I never really saw much of Miss Velvet's abilities to elicit such a reaction. And what about your leader? Her name was Starlight Shadow? Rarity fought back and urged to kick herself after realizing she'd turned a statement into a question, just like Insipid. Being around this pony, Rarity decided right then and there, was not healthy for her brain. Thankfully, Insipid didn't seem to notice the unintentional mimicry. Oh, I wouldn't dare try to fake her powers. I don't, you know, think my body can handle that much magic anyway. Besides, Starlight isn't anywhere near as pretty as Curie is. Oh, you don't... But don't tell her I said that. She'd kill me. I'm totally not kidding. I wouldn't dream of it, darling. Rarity smiled as she combed her magics through Insipid's mane once more. The other unicorn's hair was finally starting to straighten out, but Rarity found that without the proper tools, she was likely not going to make it hold up. Insipid had more cowlicks than Rarity had ever seen in 3 ponies, let alone 1. There were atrocious split ends at every turn. Their hair just seemed to want to tangle and knot at every opportunity. And it was a miracle most of the stuff hadn't just up and fallen out altogether, with the horrendous conditions of her roots. Rarity was actually glad she wasn't using a brush. Even her highest quality ones at home would likely protest the amount of work they'd need to do. She was wondering if perhaps it would be better to try a new style entirely, rather than try to beautify the disaster the poor girl called a mane. So, how did you and Fluttershy get to be such BFFs anyway? Oh, yes, as I said, I sought out her advice to assist me with caring for my dear opalescence. She was just a kitten then, and I was having trouble figuring out her diet. Cats are so finicky, you understand? You understand. And kittens even more so. Fluttershy was most helpful and gave me just the best advice. I started going back once a week to chat with her about things, and we bonded together like 2 halves of a whole. I began treating her to weekly spa visits to help her improve her look. The dear doesn't realize just how pretty she is. She used to be a model, you know. I wanted her to look her finest, even if she was a little hesitant at first. I'd do anything to make my friends happy, her most of all. Cha, I know that feeling, Insipid sighed. I'd like to do anything for Curie too. Rarity smirked. I see. Is that why you want to look pretty then? For her? How romantic, darling. Trying to earn the affection of one you love by making yourself look your best, are we? Insipid hesitated. No, I just wanted to be as pretty as she is, for sure. I mean, just look at her. Everything about her is perfect. I want that look. I want it. And I'd do anything to get what I want. Don't you have something that you'd do anything for or whatever? What about Fluttershy? You'd do anything to make her happy. Rarity smiled. Of course, dear. She's my dearest friend. I'm just saying, that makes me think, like, that you totally might want her as more than a friend, you know? See, I can, like, totally turn the tables right back round on you, the insipid added, sticking out her tongue. It was Rarity's turn to fluster. Good heavens, darling. I think you might just be overthinking this just the tiniest bit. Fluttershy is my best friend. I'd do anything for her, yes. Anything to make her happy, no. Anything to make her happy, no matter what sort of pain that might bring to me. But I'd do that for any of my friends. Okay, I'll admit I'd jump through more hoops for Fluttershy than for, say, Applejack. But that's not because I like her. Like her. I've just known her longer than the poor dear needs. I've just known her longer, and the poor dear needs more support. Nothing more to it than that. Insipid shrugged. Okay, like, no need to get defensive. Anyway, are we, like, almost done? I totally want to see how pretty I look. Okay, I think we're about between a half and 3/4 of the way through, so that's good. Rainbow Dash let out a loud yawn. It had been a very long day. She was beginning to become agitated. She wasn't used to pulling all-nighters, and this was most definitely the longest time she'd ever gone without sleep, a nap, or anything in between. But there were still a few hours left on the road to the checkpoint, and with the possibility, distant though it was, according to TikTok, of more of those monsters popping up. Okay, scrolling on my laptop just went a bit, but hang on. Distant though it was, according to TikTok, of more of those monsters popping up or approaching from afar, Rainbow just didn't feel that the safety of her friends was in a good shape. Thus, she'd taken it upon herself to maintain a vigilant watch on the camp from high above. None of those gargantuans would get anywhere near the camp, big or small, not on her watch. She would have rather preferred to be closer to the ground level so she could talk with Pinkie Pie, but the abundantly excitable Earth Pony had made extremely fast friends with the pink Earth Pony from the other group. Rainbow Dash still felt very strange, to say the least. Whenever she looked at that one, there was something distinctly familiar about her, yet different all the same. Rainbow Dash found, to her dismay, that she was not allowed to be alone in her thoughts. Another Pegasus lazily floated her way up to Rainbow, making rather grand sweeps with her impressively large wings. Rainbow was still rather awed at this other Pegasus. Sure, she thought that red one, Havocwing, had just had the coolest superpower. Pinkie's words, not hers, she'd ever seen. Throwing fireballs? How cool was that? But still, she had to admit this Grayscale had style. Those metal boots she had on each hoof fit well with the silver jumpsuits every pony in this new group wore. They reminded Rainbow of the Wonderbolts. They looked pretty awesome, maybe even a hint of radical. Hey, Grayscale said very simply. Sup? Rainbow responded in a way she rarely felt was appreciated, coolly. Not much, just bored. Same here. Rainbow just nodded. Grayscale responded in turn. Okay, Rainbow thought. She seems cool. She offered her hoof up just a little. Grayscale put her own below it. Hoof bump. Yeah, Rainbow thought definitely cool. You keeping watch? Grayscale asked. Yeah, I'm not about to let one of those things get a jump on us again. But yeah, I know. TikTok said we don't need to worry about that out here. But she's messed up pretty bad today as far as saying things that put me at ease. So I'm not really trusting her judgment right now. You feel me? I hear you. I mean, every pony lets walk on an active volcano? I don't think her head's on straight, if you know what I mean. Right, Grayscale said with a stretch of her legs. You got a problem with this, filly? I think she's a total idiot and she's going to get us all killed at this rate, Rainbow said bluntly. She then suddenly reconsidered herself. I really shouldn't be talking about this with any pony though. I mean, I don't want any pony getting the wrong idea or nothing. Twilight already knows I don't really agree with TikTok, like, at all, but... Grayscale shrugged. Hey, no big deal. Yeah, TikTok is, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you don't want to talk about it, sorry for bringing it up. It's okay. She does seem like she's a little overbearing, Grayscale said slowly. Rainbow nodded deeply in response. I wouldn't like her either. There was a heavy pause. Rainbow drank it in. It wasn't an awkward pause that made her feel tense. It was a pause born from everything that needed said having been said. She liked this pony. Definitely cool. And more than that, she knew she was cool. And seemed to get... Sorry. Now I've lost my way. And more than that, she knew she was cool, and seemed to get that Rainbow herself was cool. Hard to be cooler than that. Grayscale yawned, and smoothly led with a neck crack back into the topic anew. Weird that she's all important. Rainbow snorted. Yeah, Twilight, AJ, well, basically every pony says I'm being too harsh. It's not that though. You just aren't an idiot. Rainbow chuckled briefly, and put out a hoof again. Grayscale bumped it again. Thanks. Nothing big. Grayscale shrugged again. I'm just saying is all. Rainbow snorted. Yeah, I get you. I mean, it's nice that they listen. Grayscale slid her eyes over to Rainbow Dash, nodding slowly. Well, I mean, they listen, you know? They're always willing to listen to what I have to say, even if they don't agree with me. I'm probably thinking about it too much. Not really my problem. What? I'm probably thinking about it too much. Not really my problem. Grayscale shrugged, and Rainbow shrugged with her. I mean, okay, Rainbow said suddenly. It's a little odd. Yeah? Grayscale said it lightly, the question mark barely there in her voice. Rainbow knew that what she was asking. Odd that every pony listens to her over me. I mean, TikTok supposedly knows her way around out here, even if it hasn't really felt like it. I guess her words just have more weight is all. I can't really argue with Twilight's reasons for listening to her. Again, can't agree, but hey, I'm with whatever they're with, right? Yeah, I get what you're saying, Grayscale nodded. Rainbow stared intently at the ground for a moment. Yeah, well, I'm with them. I have to be. Sometimes they're... I don't know what they'd do without me. They both chuckled this time. I get you entirely. My team, aside from the boss, and maybe the fancy one? And Rainbow grinned at his description of Curacao. They'd all fall apart. Hey, you and me though? I think we're on the level. Haha, yeah. We got our own fancy problems. Some pony whose tongue full of shiny, probably fake words, huh? Sometimes I wonder. Back in the city, our shiny pony wanted to decorate the apartment we were going to be in for like a week. We're going home, and she wants to put up curtains or something. Maybe she wanted to wallpaper the place too, get a bunch of tiny pillows that no pony can even use. Rainbow laughed outright. Yeah, I mean, I know they're not trying to be so... Grayscale gave her a look. Unnecessary? Yeah, but wow. And I know the place was pretty dreary, and probably the scene of a murder, but a party made more sense than to get ready to live there. Pinky does that. She's all about parties. I get parties. But, see, they're, you know, temporary. Yeah, because a party can start and stop whenever. It's always a good time to party. That's your pink friends thing, huh? Rainbow smiled into the distance for a moment before answering, yeah. Grayscale nodded. Heh, goofy. But her heart's in the right place. Yeah, and I mean, we argue with rarity, but we're still with her. Because that's true. Because that's true for her too. We wouldn't just abandon her. Pinky and me, I mean, and every pony else, gotta stick together. No matter what. No matter if some ponies some ponies like dumb pillows. She dropped her voice. And all that's behind us now. We're taking the safe route we all wanted to take in the first place. At last, huh? Rainbow frowned. At least at this point, TikTok won't suggest anything too stupid. Grayscale began snickering, and Rainbow had to resist grinning again, realizing how easy it would be to join in. She can't, right? Fluttershy is on the line here. Rainbow frowned deeper as she spoke. It hadn't really occurred to her how much trust they were putting in TikTok to keep Fluttershy alive. What if she was wrong, again? Rarity, she really cares about Fluttershy, and she trusts her enough, and if Rarity is willing to put Fluttershy's life in her hooves, I guess I can't see how arguing with her would help. And that stallion too, what's his name? I don't really pay attention to him. Who, Lockwood? Rainbow rolled her eyes. Yeah, I bet he is. She caught herself. Not that it matters anyway. Rarity's there to make sure nothing bad happens. I can trust her, at least. Oh, I didn't know you liked him either. Grayscale smirked. I can't imagine why. Smooth-talking stallion's so charming, Rainbow said languidly. He's just so nice. Too nice if you ask me, especially for Fluttershy and Rarity. Sounds fishy. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Now, I'm going to say, you and me, we're on the level, and we've got pretty good opinions. It's nice to talk to some pony who gets it. I mean, I can always talk about Lockwood with every pony else too, I guess, but, you know, gotta keep the group together. Grayscale's nod was very slight, and after a moment, she said quietly, I'm glad to give you an ear. I can keep an eye on Lockwood for you. Thanks. Sometimes I think every pony is too nice to him. Hey, it's what they do, right? Yeah, it's what they do. Back home, Pinky knows every pony in town, and they all love her, and she loves them. She takes pride in that. She's your best friend? She's your best friend? Grayscale smiled at her. I wouldn't be surprised if she helps you out when the group decides that you're being too mean. Rainbow started, then remembered their conversation from the campfire the night before last. Pinky hadn't agreed with her. Pinky didn't think any lesser of either Lockwood or TikTok, despite Rainbow's passionate dislike for them both. She returned the smile to Grayscale, spending all her concentration to keep it from shaking. Pinky's always there for me. Sounds pretty awesome. Maybe a little rad. Yeah, definitely. You're lucky to have such a loyal group of friends. Rainbow swallowed. A loyal group of friends that were all ignoring almost all of her opinions, and instead listening to the two ponies she had made clear she didn't trust. And I'm loyal to them too. Though, through thick and thin. Hey, very cool. Rainbow turned away, hoping it wasn't too fast. Yeah, hey, I need to get back to my watch, if that's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Good talking to you, Dash. Yeah, see you around, Grey. She took off in a slow, circling rise, letting the natural pattern of her flight distance herself, worrying about the distance she could see in her friends. Grayscale watched her glide away, a faint wisp of a smile trailing on her lips. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper that died in the wind. I like it when they do work for me. Wait, is that Grayscale or Rainbow Dash? I don't know. She yawned and glided off towards the group upside down, forehoofs behind her head, great heavy wings catching the air, currents and dragging them down with her. Down and down, slowly but surely breaking them beneath her. Right, who is this going to be? I don't even know. I guess it doesn't matter. And see, I'm expecting it's Pinky, but there's nothing to say in the first paragraph, so I don't know. And see, the best part is when you just get to slice it right. I find that using a serrated blade is better, since it really gets through the thick parts and gets down to the juicy business faster. Oh, and it makes it nice, clean slices too. Perfect for sharing with others, or making it easier to save some for yourself later. Sometimes they're too big, you know, and you can't down it all in one go. Oh, I know. I love that part the most. The juices just gurgle and ooze all over the place. I find the thicker the flow, the better the quality. Also, it makes it easier to keep together. Nice and neat. No pony wants to get that stuff all over the place. It stains, you know. I got a bunch of it all over the floor once and had to wash that rug like 4 times to get it out. Oh, absolutely. The mess is the worst. Seems you just gotta get rid of the evidence and stains. Make that a really tough job. Oh, and the colours are the best part. You can tell when you've got something really good when it's just the right shade of red. The darker the better. If it's too bright, you probably didn't do it right. Yeah, I definitely agree. What about smell? See, I'm of the opinion that if you got the job done just right, you can smell all the insides and stuff just straight through. Before you even start cutting. But I guess that depends on how long you set it before you ate it. How long do you think is the best to let it sit there before eating? I hear all sorts of different opinions on the matter. Can you believe some ponies refrigerate it? Or worse, freeze it? Blech, yuck. And what do? Microwave it? Just gross. To hell with that, I ate it straight away. It's best when fresh and warm. That's when the juices really flow and stuff. And when the smell is the best too. Piping hot and delicious. Oh, and the toppings! See, depending on the kind you're eating, different things go better with it. It's all very scientific. Oh, you have no idea how good it feels to have some pony to talk to about this kind of stuff. Every pony else just doesn't understand my passion, you know. But you, I've got a good feeling about you. I know, right? It feels like we're kindred spirits or something. We need to share our recipes sometime. I bet your cherry pie tastes delicious. At last, Pinky raised an eyebrow. Wait. Oh. Did I get the order wrong? I think I might have done. There was no names, so I couldn't, Wait, we were talking about cherry pie? Well, duh. Red Velvet rolled her eyes. What did you think we were talking about? Strawberry pie, of course. Pinky said matter-of-factly, crossing her hooves over her chest. Though I can see where there might have been some confusion for some period that might have just wandered into the conversation right in the middle of it. Yeah, they might have thought we were talking about murdering, cutting up, and then devouring some hapless pony. What a ridiculous idea, haha. Red Velvet snickered. Pinky giggled. Ha, good one. Ah, it's a talent. Velvet's grin widened and she bared some teeth. Though, now that you mention it, I could go for a slice of pony right now. You look pretty tasty yourself, actually. Nice and juicy. Pinky raised an eyebrow. What? Velvet snickered and growled low, approaching Pinky with a menacing grin. I bet you taste really sweet, too. I wouldn't know. Pinky backed up a step. Maybe you can... Maybe ask Rain. Red whispered from suddenly behind Pinky, directly into her ear. I wonder what kind of pie you taste like. Pinky yelped and fell back on her rump, nearly scrambled away from Velvet as the other pink pony took another intimidating step towards her. Then suddenly, Pinkie Pie burst into laughter. Velvet's grin shattered and turned into a look of utter surprise. What the... Oh man, good one! Pinkie chortled. You had me going there for a second, Red. Pfft, eating ponies, ha! You'd have to have some twisted... You'd have to be pretty twisted to do that, she added, crossing her eyes and twirling her hoof around her ear. Velvet looked rather unsettled for a moment. Right, haha. Twisted, yeah, sure, got you. Pinkie wiped her eye and gave a happy sigh. No, really, that was great. You'd be a blast at the next Nightmare Night party, if you were able to come, which I doubt you would be all things considered. Oh, I know. I should totally have Rarity make up a dress for me that looks like it was sewn together from the coats of dozens of ponies. I really add to the image, you know? I mean, even if you couldn't be there yourself, you've given me just the best idea to make next year's Nightmare night the scariest thing ever. Dash, you'll get a total kick out of it. I just know it. Velvet merely stared in disbelief. You want to scare other ponies? She couldn't believe it. Wasn't it her job to make this one think those thoughts? She already had these kinds of thoughts on her own. What is this? I don't even... No, not all the time or anything. But on Nightmare Night, there are 3 super really critically important things you need to do in order to call the night a complete success. 1, you need lots and lots and lots and lots of candy. Lots of candy? Velvet asked in interest. Lots of candy. Rule 1 is, chocolate is the best, followed by caramels and taffy with the fruity stuff way down in the bottom. Rule 2 is, if your tummy isn't full to bursting by the end of the night, you're doing it wrong. Rule 3 is, eat as you go, to keep plenty of room in your pillowcase. 4, trick-or-treating ain't just for foals, and any pony who says so is jealous of all your free candy. 2, you need the absolute perfect costume, and it doesn't really matter what it is so much as the quality. Last year I went as a chicken, bragg! Funny costumes are best for parties, while for everything else, the best bet is the scary stuff. I usually have 2 costumes every year, one for scoring loads of candy, and the other for joining Dashi on prank sprees. Your costume alone should make other ponies and how good it is, and if they run away from being scared, that's even better. Costumes, got it, Velvet nodded. That part's easy. 3, you need to either get scared completely out of your wits, or do the same to some pony else, preferably every pony you possibly can. That's the whole point of the holiday, after all. It's also Dashi's favourite part, and she usually gets me really good because she's so fast and sneaky. A whole holiday dedicated to scaring ponies? Why am I just learning about this now? Velvet grumbled. So you don't get frightened very easily, I take it? Heck, on this day in particular, you actually enjoy it? That's very unexpected. Well, yeah, the way I look at it, there's nothing out there to be afraid of you can't just stand up to. Dragons, spooky forest, haunted houses, you name it. Even, say, certain death? Velvet grinned. Well, you'd have to be just plain dumb to be unafraid of that. Pinky rolled her eyes. But you gotta face your fears. And when it's all said and done, you can look back on it with your friends and laugh. Make those death-defying adventures into stories to tell your friends and family. Like today. Sure, we all got blasted out of a volcano after falling to our certain doom, but then we all got soaring through the air with the greatest of ease. If you can't take what scares you and get some fun out of it, you may as well just lock yourself in your house. Why, I even wrote a song about it. And Picky took a deep breath. A song? Right now? Velvet said flatly. You're not. When I was a little filly and the sun was going down. I'm really willing to sing that one because I usually sing it. You are. Velvet rolled her eyes. Okay. So, what did she want to talk about? Lockwood asked. You were over there a while. The way you acted at first, I'm surprised. The way you acted at first, I'm surprised you didn't come crawling back, Flower smirked. Rarity, who had just returned from her talk with Insipid, smiled knowingly. Oh, just a little girl talk, mostly fashion and beauty. Nothing any of you boys would take interest in. How is she? TikTok wiped her brow with her sleeve. I've gotten her mostly stabilised. She's in a pretty deep sleep now, so she won't be in any pain for a while. Hopefully at least until we hit the checkpoint. As soon as we're all ready to move out, I'll prep her to move the rest of the way. She'll be fine, Rarity. Trust me on this. Oh, pardon me. Rarity sighed. I'm putting a lot of faith in you, TikTok. Your judgment so far has been nothing but trouble. But what other choice do I have? What exactly have you been doing to keeping her from succumbing to the illness anyway? You're clearly using magic, but haven't asked either myself nor Twilight for help. Advanced diagnostic spells. I'm pinpointing the infected areas and putting barriers around them to keep the infection from spreading as quickly. I only wish I were as proficient at restromancy as Twilight is, or had her kind of power. I might be able to almost cure her. I'd ask for Twilight's assistance, but she has no idea what to look for, and this is delicate work. I do apologise for not being able to do more. You've done your best, Lockwood smiled, and we're all really grateful for it, I'm sure. Fluttershy's important to... He stopped a moment and looked at Rarity briefly, thoughtfully, to every pony. Just remember, TikTok, if anything happens to her, I won't be held responsible for what I might do to you, Rarity threatened. As much as I appreciate your help, I still blame you for this happening to her in the first place. TikTok raised an eyebrow. Me? Where did that come from? I tried to warn... Rarity ignored her and turned instead to Havocwing, who was replenishing the campfire. Miss Havocwing, I want to thank you again for your concern for Fluttershy's well-being. This means a lot to me. Really, it does. Yeah, Havocwing said dismissively. Look, I'm just following orders, okay? In my experience, we leave the weaklings weaklings for dead. All they do is slow you down. Cause cause more trouble, and they don't contribute where it counts. If you can't take the heat, don't play with fire. And don't... You get me? But the boss says I gotta be nice, so whatever. Boom, campfire. Rarity remained firm. All the more reason to appreciate your actions. If you're doing it despite your grievances, I'll make sure Fluttershy knows you're helping Hoof. She'd want to thank you. TikTok snorted and Rarity turned to her with a huff. Don't worry, she'll know you helped too. I wouldn't dream of forgetting to mention that. TikTok rolled her eyes. Right, well, at any rate, Fluttershy's condition is stable, and I can see I'm bloody well not wanted over here anymore. I'm going to see if Twilight and Starlight are ready to move along so we can get Fluttershy properly taken care of. I need to discuss our route as well, to make sure we don't wander into any trouble on the way. She left the campfire area and made her way for the 2 purple unicorns. She shook her head to rid herself of sleep. It felt like days since her last good rest, and now was not the time to lose herself. She'd really wanted to talk with Twilight and perhaps Applejack as well, about their new friends. She'd been around the block too many times to not think that their proposed coincidence was not what they said it was. Starlight Shadow's excuse of being able to detect strong magic was coming to investigate was believable enough, and their own destination, the ruins of Griffin Kingdom, certainly put them in the right place, but TikTok just found it awfully convenient. But then she'd been so kindly reminded with that Flathoof, Lockwood, and even herself had all come to meet Twilight's group through the same sort of circumstances. TikTok approached Twilight Sparkle and Starlight Shadow and interrupted their conversation. Twilight, Fluttershy's condition is stable, and she is prepped to move again. We should get moving soon, and with all due speed so we can ensure she gets the medical attention she needs. Oh, that's most wonderful news, Starlight smiled. It gladdens me to hear your little friend will make a recovery, Sparkle. Myself as well. I'm glad to hear it, TikTok. I appreciate everything you're doing to help her. Twilight nodded. I think we're ready to move out if no pony else has any objections, which all things considered I highly doubt. We continue straight east, right? That's where the checkpoint is? Minus a small detour, yes. Straight east. The nesting grounds have a lopsided shape, and a small bulge pops up directly east of us here. We'll need to circle around it to avoid any complications. It adds perhaps an extra hour to our travel time. Not much more than that, and with with the time we're making, we can certainly afford it. Fluttershy is stable, and if your information and Starlight's confirmation have said information is accurate, she's also dying a little more every second, Twilight frowned. I'd really prefer to avoid risking not making it in time. I thought you would be the first to agree to take the shorter path, considering our group's collective time limit. Look, I'm willing to risk volcanic territory because I've never had any real trouble with it. Well, until yesterday at least. I'm not as keen to venture into gargantuan territory willingly like some sort of lunatic. Listen, Twilight, she's easily got another 8 hours in her. With a detour, we'll hit the checkpoint in 5 hours, maximum. And assuming every pony really keeps up their pace, we'll make it in less. We can... Twilight narrowed her eyes. I'd really appreciate it if you'd stop referring to my friend like a clock counting down. TikTok blinked in surprise, then shook her head. I apologise, I didn't realise I was doing it. Force of habit, you understand. Always tend to look at things in terms of time. I didn't realise I was coming off as insensitive. Right, if I may, Starlight smirked. My companions and I are more than capable of clearing the way for you to take a less strenuous route. If my memory serves, the direct route east would get us to the checkpoint in 3 hours just about, even accounting for relatively minor delays like enormous mutant insects. That sounds like a great idea, Starlight, Twilight agreed with a broad smile. I don't want to impose on you and your friends. I appreciate the offer. As good as it sounds, Fluttershy is still giving off pheromones, TikTok explained. We risk attracting a lot of attention. Attention which I assure you my associates can handle. I could probably escort your whole party across by myself, but why dirty my hooves when even my subordinates could complete such a simple task? Trust me, Sparkle, we'll keep you safe. And ensure that friend of yours reaches help in time. I'm inclined to agree, Twilight nodded. After seeing just a little of what your friends are capable of, I don't doubt your abilities to keep us covered. TikTok protested. Really now, Twilight. And that's my final decision, Twilight stamped her hoof. Excellent. I'll go rally the troops, as the saying goes. Have yourselves ready to depart in 15 minutes. Starlight smirked as she trotted away. TikTok stopped Twilight before the latter could go too far. Sparkle, we need to have a little chat. Twilight frowned. If you're going to argue with me about my decision, Not about that. You've got no argument from me. I understand your position, and even if I disagree with it, well, perhaps you have a point. I'm just trying to make up for the mishaps earlier, is all. You understand it was all circumstantial, right? I didn't lead any of you into anything I didn't think we could handle. It's just my bloody bad luck rearing its ugly head. Twilight remained silent a moment, then nodded. Yes, a few unforeseen elements came about that I really couldn't expect you to predict. I can't say I would have done much better given the circumstances. I suppose I really can't blame you for that. It's just something about these new friends bother me. I can't put a huff on it, but oh, never mind. I'm getting a little paranoia get a hold of me again. I've been a little too jittery this whole week thanks to the psycho back in the city. Maybe I'm just seeing things that I normally wouldn't. Forget it. I didn't come over here to make you listen to my bloody rambling. Come along. Come along then. You can help me finish prepping Fluttershy for transport. Twilight nodded and started heading back towards the camp herself. TikTok lagged behind a little, watching the figure of Starlight's shadow as she walked off in the other direction. TikTok had yet to see the other unicorn work any magic, but she could feel it all the same. The mare was brimming with magical power, easily enough to compete with Twilight Sparkle or better. But that didn't bother her. It was the kind of magic she could sense that made her uneasy. It felt familiar. With a content and relief sigh, the group at last arrived at the checkpoint at the foot of the Goldrake Pass. It was a rather unimpressive complex, barely larger than Twilight's library. It was a rather unimpressive complex, barely larger than Twilight's library, and made of rather drab metal that did not appear as sturdy as the walls of New Pandemonium City by a long shot. Their ears and hooves pounded slightly at the strange sensation of rumbling that came from the ground below their feet as they approached the complex perimeter. Though they could not see the source, TikTok approached the large door and knocked gingerly on it. He was answered by a light brown unicorn stallion with short, spiky black hair, wearing a very simple set of brown and green survival gear. Yeah, I heard. He stopped suddenly when he saw the group of ponies standing outside his door. Well, shucks, I don't usually see groups this big. And I usually travel alone. TikTok nodded with a smirk. How are you, Peter? Holding up in this little shack of yours? TikTok! Long time no see. He greeted with a grin. It's been ages. How are you? Oh, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You must be here on business. What can I do for you? And good heavens, what has happened to you? You look like you've seen a lot of action lately. My companions and I are travelling through the other side of the Godric Pass, and we needed to stop here for a rest. We've had a pretty hard day. Rather, days. More importantly, we need some of your gargantuan anti-venom. One of our friends got stung, see? And, say no more, Peter nodded. Quickly, bring her inside. We'll get her treated up and ready for recovery. You can fill me in on the details later. Alright, that was chapter 13. That was a long one. So, I suppose we just got to see more of how the sort of main six and their counterparts differ from each other, and all that kind of stuff. But thanks for I need a break from reading. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, keep on spreading the keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you next time.